Greetings, superior beings, greetings, supreme being. We are all the human race, our common enemy is death. Welcome on Try Something.Vegetarian. I'm Ulrich Hofmann. Today is the 3rd of September 2019, and you're watching the broadcast. Macron gives 15 billion to Iran, and Dutch mole planted Stuxnet+Rouhani rules out bilateral talks with US. So first I would like to start by saying that I think it is vital to prevent a world war, prevent a 7-year nuclear winter, prevent mutually assured destruction, and it's possible none without a Tesla plasma shield would survive a third world war, because it's a secret technology, the Tesla plasma weapons, death ray of Nikola Tesla, etc. It's possible none without a Tesla plasma shield would survive, and nobody knows about it. According to former Lieutenant Colonel Tom Bearden, these scalar weapons have made nuclear weapons obsolete, and it's possible nuclear weapons never had a chance because Tesla invented death ray about 40 years before the first atomic tests, and they can use that technology to fry the circuits of these missiles and also to generate a Tesla plasma shield, as described in the Dr. Bernard Easton HARP patent. But HARP is a fake facility open every 6 years to the public, and according to sources online, they have a camouflaged phased array antenna in Poker Flat, Alaska. I have to do something here. Alright. So, preventing a world war, I've advised the leaders, I've advised Trump to make concessions qua 12 demands of Pompeo, to accept Iran's proposal to allow full inspections. Then it's clear they cannot produce a nuclear weapon, and they could have accepted that, so preventing them from building one cannot be their real goal if they don't accept that proposal. And I've advised Rouhani and Zarif to accept the 12 points of Pompeo, and the UN, the Luciferian UN, or other UN members, to mitigate, to make sure that this situation is resolved and the world war threat over Iran dissipates, or so that a world war at least is prevented, basically. Of course, Putin made clear he didn't agree with the sanctions, and I'm for ending all these illegal wars in the Middle East without the approval from Congress, and also the legal ones, to end all war and create universal peace, to bring the soldiers back home alive, and to ban GMO, label GMO, test against genetically modified organisms. So, I have 3 articles planned for this broadcast. Let's do this fast. I plan to read them. First, new US-led patrols in Persian Gulf raise stakes with Iran. That's the one I originally wanted to read. And I think they've planned this world war, so it's best to prepare, and I hope somebody could let me know when it starts. And it's good to go to a safe country and be prepared with a radiological water filter and storable food. Okay. The second article. Iran nuclear deal, Rouhani rules out bilateral talks with US. Well, he already did that. He already made clear that if the US doesn't drop the sanctions completely, then he is not willing to talk. He thinks the sanctions are unreasonable and that they are damaging Iran economically, And Putin agrees, basically, the ally of Russia, and the Russians have more nukes than the Americans. So I'm totally for preventing that world war if anybody has planned this, perhaps Jesuits and Masons that want the global government after reducing global population to 500 million. And it's possible none without a Tesla plasma shield. Or also what's also possible is that none without a radiological water filter and storable food could survive, that they have BFSA plans for situational awareness also for Europe. And yeah, that's why it's good to be prepared, and if possible go to a safe country like Switzerland, which is a neutral country. There are not that many neutral countries, most of them are allied with other countries to be played out against each other, so the beta elite is probably hiding in Switzerland when it happens. And the population reduction will not be televised, of course. If there's a world war, then there's an EMP. People lose all their bank money, fiat currency is virtual. If everybody would take the money out of the bank right now, they wouldn't have it. So that's why most of it is virtual money. So he already did that, and now they're making a big thing out of it. 5 hours ago, BBC News. Today, 3rd of September, Tuesday. And France seeks $15 billion letter of credit for Iran to keep nuclear deal alive. The picture of Macron. We need that amount. And the French tax-paying citizens will have to pay for it, though we're allies with the US, the Americans. Trump did away with that nuclear deal. So perhaps this is just even worse for the tax-paying citizens. And I doubt if Macron would do anything to prevent the world war. He could be part of the people, the politicians that are helping to create a world war. However, this is just my thoughts at this time. Perhaps at another time when I'd be more positive, I'd have totally different ideas about this. So let me know what you all think in the comments. Let others know. I'm always interested to read the chat and the comments, to read what the people really think. And if a channel turns off the chat, then you know they want to hide public opinion for the topic they are covering. So there's a reason they have to go out of the way to turn off the chat. And if they do that, then usually I turn it off. I don't want to watch live broadcasts with a chat that I can't write in. And I will have to try to turn on the chat. I'm using a new computer, so for me it's kind of getting used to it, and I have to install a lot of apps to make it work the way it did. That was not the one. Here, see, Dutch mole planted infamous Stuxnet virus in Iran's nuclear program report in the URL title. And it was on, and apparently it changes automatically. Ah, here it is. So then perhaps it's best to copy this first, read it first before it disappears. It's almost gone.
Two hours ago, Dutch mole planted infamous Stuxnet virus in Iran's nuclear program. Reported was a mole operated by the Dutch intelligence agency that planted the infamous Stuxnet virus at an Iranian nuclear research site in 2007, sabotaging uranium enrichment centrifuges in what is widely regarded as the first ever use of cyber weapons, Yahoo News reports today. At the request of the CIA and Israel's Mossad spy agency, the Dutch recruited the mole, an Iranian engineer, brought the virus program into Iran's Natanz enrichment facility for intelligence sources familiar with the details tell the news site. The report apparently provides the answer to one of the mysteries about the Stuxnet virus story, how the malicious program was introduced into Iranian control systems at Natanz that were not connected to the internet. The Dutch mole was the most important way of getting the virus into Natanz, a source tells Yahoo. The Stuxnet virus was uncovered in 2010 and was widely reported to have been developed together by US and Israeli intelligence. It penetrated Iran's rogue nuclear program, taking control and sabotaging parts of its enrichment processes by speeding up its centrifuges. Stuart Weiner.
So basically, you could argue that's a crime. Is the UN doing anything about that, basically? Of course, Iran has the right to produce nuclear energy. Not that I'm for nuclear energy, I'm against nuclear energy for other energy sources. Clean, free energy, telluric power, for example, and sea energy that's more efficient than wind energy. But you could also use thorium. So there's the thorium conspiracy video on YouTube. And is there any good argument not to use thorium so that it cannot be used to produce nuclear weapons? So why aren't they using thorium? Is there really a thorium conspiracy? So basically that's also pretty scary for them when they're handling the nuclear energy and all of a sudden there's a computer virus, things start to malfunction. They don't feel safe at that time, I guess. So yeah, that's the way I think about this. Iran was fully in compliance with that nuclear deal. They had the right to produce nuclear energy for other purposes, and they have no right to release Stuxnet virus. To do these cyber attacks on nuclear facilities. And when American nuclear facilities would be attacked, they'd go to jail, to prison for ages, perhaps for the rest of their lives, perhaps. I don't know. France seeks 15 billion letter of credit for Iran to keep. Oh yeah, this is all 𝚲𝙾𝙼.com.
𝚲𝙾𝙼.com.
This one was the one I wanted to read originally. I'm going to have dinner soon, so I don't know if I can read the whole thing, but it's very fast, so I think this will take a minute or two. And then I can move to the next article.
New US-led patrols in Persian Gulf raise stakes with Iran coalition to safeguard oil shipping in strategic route could stumble into accidental escalation with Tehran, analysts warn by John Gambrell today, 10:24 a.m. 010 shares U.S. Marines monitor an Iranian Navy vessel from the USS John P. Murtha in the Strait of Hormuz, August 12, 2019, U.S. Marine Corps photo by Staff Sergeant Donald Holbert, released. U.S. Marines monitor an Iranian Navy vessel from the USS John P. Murtha in the Strait of Hormuz, August 12, 2019, U.S. Marine Corps photo by Staff Sergeant Donald Holbert, released Dubai, United Arab Emirates, app, as the U.S. tries a new way to protect shipping across the Persian Gulf amid tensions with Iran. It finds itself sailing into uncertain waters. For decades, the U.S. has considered the waters of the Persian Gulf as critical to its national security. Through the Gulf's narrow mouth, the Strait of Hormuz, 20% of all crude oil sold passes onto the world market. Any disruption there likely will see energy prices spike. The U.S. has been willing to use its firepower to ensure that doesn't happen. It escorted ships here in the so-called 1980s tanker war. America fought its last major naval battle in these waters in 1988 against Iran. Get the Times of Israel's daily edition by email and never miss our top stories. Free sign up now. The U.S. Navy is trying to put together a new coalition of nations to counter what it sees as a renewed maritime threat from Iran, but Tehran finds itself backed into a corner and ready for a possible conflict it had 30 years for which to prepare. It stands poised this week to further break the terms of its 2015 nuclear deal with world powers, over a year after President Donald Trump unilaterally withdrew America from the accord and imposed crippling sanctions on the country. It is plausible to imagine a scenario where these forces stumble into some type of accidental escalation, said Becca Wasser, a senior policy analyst at the RAND Corporation who studies the region. American warships USS Boxer, front, USNS Tippecanoe, right, USS John P. Murtha transit the Strait of Hormuz, July 18, 2019, U.S. Marine Corps photo by Corporal Jason Monty, released. The U.S.-led Sentinel program's strategy aims to secure the Greater Persian Gulf region in a multi-part strategy. It includes surveillance of the Strait of Hormuz and the Bab-el-Mandeb, another narrow strait that connects the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden off Yemen and East Africa. Smaller patrol boats and other craft will be available for rapid response. The plan also allows for nations to escort their own ships through the region, said Commander Joshua Frey, a spokesman for the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet, which oversees the region. For now, the Bahrain-based Fifth Fleet is not escorting U.S.-flagged ships through waters, though that remains a possibility, he said. So far, only Australia, Bahrain and the United Kingdom have said they'll join the U.S. program. India has begun escorting its own ships independently of the U.S. coalition, while China has suggested it could get involved as well. Some of what the U.S. plan calls for already falls under the routine operations of the Fifth Fleet, which has been in the region since 1995. U.S. Navy ships coming in and out of the Persian Gulf often find themselves shadowed by Iranian Revolutionary Guard vessels. Some incidents have seen the U.S. fire warning shots or Iranian forces test fire missiles nearby, but the new forces, as well as Iran facing growing financial pressure from U.S. sanctions, have raised the stakes for conflict, said Michael Stevens, a senior research fellow who focuses on the Middle East at London's Royal United Services Institute for Defence and Security Studies. When you change the chessboard, you are effectively permanently changing the conditions under which you're operating, Stevens said. How you cannot make that look like an escalation is anyone's guess because it is an escalation. Iran itself hasn't sat still. The Guard, a paramilitary force answerable only to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, pilots speedboats through the Strait of Hormuz and run drills practicing swarming larger warships. It possesses short-to-ship missiles. It also, according to U.S. officials, has special forces capable of sneaking up on unsuspecting ships to plant explosive mines. A pilot speaks to a crew member by an F/A-18 fighter jet on the deck of the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier in the Arabian Sea on June 3, 2019. App photo, John Gambrill. One of the immediate dangers is in the response to Iran itself. During the Somali piracy crisis of the 2000s, the rush of navies to the region saw fishermen wrongly targeted for attack in at least one incident, said Salvatore R. Mercogliano, a former merchant mariner and associate professor of history at North Carolina's Campbell University. While the Strait of Hormuz is just 33 kilometers, 21 miles, wide at its narrowest point, there is a lot of surrounding area to cover for such a force. Trying to run convoys of ships through the areas also would slow down traffic and delay shipments. Meanwhile, the small fast boats of Iran's Guard easily can be missed among the fishermen and traditional dhow ships moving through the busy waters. It's very easy to get lured one way or another and miss something, Mercogliano said. Meanwhile, U.S. authorities warn that ships in the region have reported spoofed bridge-to-bridge communications from unknown entities falsely claiming to be U.S. or coalition warships. Ships also have reported interference with their GPS systems, according to the U.S. Transportation Department's Maritime Administration, that could see ships accidentally enter Iranian territorial waters and offer a pretense for its forces to board. For mariners in the region, the Strait of Hormuz has been declared a temporary extended risk zone, qualifying them for bonus and higher death and disability coverage. And while the mariners may be on Western-owned or flagged vessels, many come from poorer countries in Eastern Europe or Asia. The normal seafarers are the ones being caught up in this geopolitical game, said Jacqueline Smith, the maritime coordinator for International Transportation Workers Federation. Read more. Israel and the region. Persian Gulf. Strait of Hormuz. Iran-US relations. 10 shares you might also like. Iranian fighter jet crashes near Persian Gulf. Iranian fighter jet crashes near Persian Gulf.
Okay, I was adding some images. So that was the Times of Israel.com article. New US-led patrols in Persian Gulf raise stakes with Iran. So I'm obviously working on other things in the meantime. France says much work remains to save Iran nuke deal amid credit line talks. As Europe scrambles to provide sanctions relief, Jean-Yves Le Drian warns solution to crisis depends on concessions by Tehran. Washington. Yeah, they can both make some concessions and then the problem is solved and the world war risk avoided. So next I'm going to read a BBC.com article, and the next one will also be Times of Israel, if I can still make that qua time. Okay, let's just start reading.
Iran nuclear deal. Rouhani rules out bilateral talks with US 5 hours ago. Share this with Facebook, share this with Messenger, share this with Twitter, share this with email, share related topics. Iran nuclear deal. Image copyright the image caption. Hassan Rouhani has said he is ready for dialogue if the US first lifts its sanctions. Iran's president has ruled out ever holding bilateral talks with the US. There have been a lot of offers for talks, but our answer will always be negative, Hassan Rouhani told MPs. But he said Iran would agree to resume multilateral talks if all U.S. sanctions on Iran were lifted. U.S. President Donald Trump has said he is open to renegotiating a 2015 nuclear deal between Iran and world powers, which Mr. Trump unilaterally abandoned last year, reinstating sanctions. The deal's other parties, the UK, France, Germany, China and Russia, have attempted to keep it alive. But the sanctions put in place by Mr. Trump have caused Iran's oil exports to collapse, the value of its currency to plummet, and sent inflation soaring. In July, after Mr. Trump tightened the sanctions on Iranian oil exports in an attempt to force it to negotiate, Iran suspended 2 commitments enshrined in the deal. Mr. Rouhani has threatened a third, unspecified step unless European countries take action by Thursday to shield the Iranian economy from the sanctions' effects. Iran nuclear crisis in 300 words. Can the nuclear deal can be saved? Iran and the crisis in the Gulf. Explained at the G7 summit last week, French President Emmanuel Macron said he was convinced that an agreement could be found if the US and Iranian presidents were to meet. Mr. Trump said Iranians were hurting badly and that he thought Mr. Rouhani was going to want to meet and get their situation straightened out. The next day, Mr. Rouhani signaled that he was ready for dialogue if the US first lifted its sanctions. Media caption. Feeling the squeeze, Iran's sanctions explained. But in a speech to Parliament on Tuesday, he ruled out a bilateral meeting. The issue of bilateral talks is not on the agenda in principle, he said. If America lifts all of its sanctions, I believe it does not matter whether it returns to the nuclear deal. What is important is the sanctions. There still is a chance for America to attend meetings of the P5+1 like in the past, he said, referring to the group of powers that negotiated the 2015 accord. But this will only be possible provided that it lifts all sanctions, he added. Mr. Rouhani also warned European countries that they had until Thursday to honor their promises to uphold the economic benefits of the nuclear deal. If Europeans can purchase a oil or pre-purchase it, and we can have access to our money, That will ease the situation and we can fully implement the deal, he said. Otherwise we will take our third step. French President Emmanuel Macron has reportedly proposed setting up a $15 billion, £12.5 billion, line of credit for Iran, secured by oil, in return for its full compliance with the nuclear deal. That would allow Iran to obtain foreign hard currency. Image copyright 𝚃𝙾𝙾𝚃 caption. Iran has insisted that its nuclear program is entirely peaceful. In July, inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, confirmed that Iran had begun enriching uranium above the 3.67% limit set by the nuclear deal and had exceeded a 300 kilograms, 660 pounds, limit on its stockpile of enriched uranium. Low enriched uranium, which has a 3 to 5% concentration, can be used to produce fuel for nuclear power plants. Weapons-grade uranium is 90% enriched or more. On Monday, an Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman said the third step would be stronger than the first and the second steps, but he gave no further details. Analysts suggested the country might start enriching uranium to 20% concentration, which would shorten its so-called breakout time, the time required for it to produce enough fissile material for a bomb if it chose to do so. Iran insists that its nuclear program is exclusively for peaceful purposes. Related topics. 𝙲𝙾𝙲𝚃𝚃 Iran-United States-Iran nuclear deal. Share this story about sharing email, Facebook Messenger, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn. More on this story. G7 Summit. Iranian Foreign Minister attends unexpected talks. August 26, 2019. Iran nuclear crisis in 300 words. July 1, 2019. Iran and the crisis in the Gulf explained. August 19, 2019.
Okay, made the new picture show. Biden calls for NWO. I uploaded the video also, all these leaders that call for the New World Order to be erected. And I already created a New World Order. Everybody can join my New World Order, created to prevent imposition of the satanic Luciferian totalitarian global government after population reduction to 500 million, which is what some people are pursuing. It's a conspiracy fact. The population reduction conspiracy is not a theory, clear from the book quotes and $1 million Georgia Guidestones. So that's proven beyond any reasonable doubt. Boris Johnson and Lord Rothschild. This is what technocracy looks like. Peace. Universal peace now. But he has some red and what is it, green on his finger or blue? I don't know. Prevent, stall, contain and end World War III. Good idea. Sabotage also. So basically, false flag attack on 2 oil tankers. Eyewitness saw flying projectile hole and ship above waterline. There is Pekuach Nefesh, basically for the Orthodox Jews and everybody that keeps the commandment. You make everybody that keeps or observes the commandments, which I do not. Religion is an abomination. I do keep these 7 Noahide laws, but that's in line with the normal law basically, and I think that makes sense, like driving on the right side of the road. But the point is, Pikuach Nefesh means you may break any commandment to save human life, except the 3 cardinal sins. I'm not going to explain what those 3 are, but basically you may break any commandment to save a human life. But there are 613 commandments for Orthodox Jews to observe, And thou shalt not kill is basically at the heart of the Torah. It's what all the other commandments are based on. And not to convict anyone without a fair trial. That's impossible with synthetic telepathy and remote torture technology. A fair trial really is impossible. People cannot press charges of incitement to commit genocide, perhaps in other countries. I've tried it twice in the Netherlands. I'm a US citizen, BC Hoffman, FFN, and I'm in Meidrecht. And I've attempted to press charges of incitement to commit genocide against these people with book quotes that prove they want to reduce the global population to 500 million. And now we see Ebola spreading, the Ebola, Lassa, Chimera, and protests against Trump, etc. Are these really paid protesters, or do they only get paid when they protest other things? So that's protestondemand.com and the other one. So they have about 2,000 paid protesters, and it's an interesting concept basically, so that they create protests to support their agenda, which can also very well be what we see now, the Extinction Rebellion. I did a long broadcast about on my channel, Try Something.Vegetarian, though it's healthier to try something vegan, but many people eat many vegan and vegetarian things without knowing it, as if that's so bad. I think that some people really have prejudice and dogmas or superstition, and they believe that it's healthier to eat meat, but in reality animal fat especially, and also animal protein, increase your cancer risk, and it's harder to digest meat because humans are originally herbivores and not carnivores nor omnivores. And yeah, it's healthiest to be vegan, as long as you take enough vitamin B12 and eat a balanced diet. So you have to get your vitamins, and B12 is something that is also available in vitamin B12 spray. Somebody asked me in the chat, or said that it was impossible for vegans to get enough vitamin B12 or something like that. That there are no natural sources that are not vegan, that are not meat or fish. There's a lot in tuna if you eat that, but I can't stand the smell of fish. I did eat some fish eggs a while ago with vitamin B12, but I don't really like it. Anyway, we were gonna read the next article because otherwise my father comes up. So yeah, they told me to go to the AIVD, and they are probably the same people that tortured my teeth out of my mouth and my mother to death, or it's a Dutch-speaking AI that speaks any language. Perhaps skull and bones, Jesuits, Masons. I've made a list of 7 suspects, and they've also tortured my mother to death. And the beam of the dental torture impulsed energy projectile mode was partially deflected by my grounded Van de Graaff generator, and that may be the electromagnetic field that they have generated. Oh, that's funny, I put that picture there by mistake. So that should have been only the picture with all of them on it, basically. But I did it very fast, so let's read the other article, because otherwise I am running out of time because of dinner. We just read the BBC article, Rouhani rules out bilateral talks with US. I think. I don't even remember. I'm too busy with stuff. France seeks $15 billion letter of credit for Iran to keep nuclear deal alive. back to timesofisrael.com.
France seeks $15 billion letter of credit for Iran to keep nuclear deal alive. Iranian delegation in Paris for talks as Tehran spokesperson says our views have come closer together. Toy staff and AFP today, 12:22 p.m. H619 shares French President Emmanuel Macron gestures as he delivers a speech during the annual French Ambassadors Conference at the Élysée Palace in Paris on August 27, 2019. Jon Pool, AFP, French President Emmanuel Macron gestures as he delivers a speech during the annual French Ambassadors Conference at the Élysée Palace in Paris on August 27, 2019. Jon Pool, AFP. France has reportedly offered to extend a $15 billion letter of credit to Iran in exchange for the Islamic Republic's compliance with the 2015 nuclear deal with world powers, according to the New York Times, which cited a U.S. official and Iranian reports. The proposed sum was aimed at salvaging the accord after U.S. President Donald Trump withdrew from the pact last year and reimposed binding sanctions on Iran, including on its oil sector. The $15 billion package would make up for about half of Iran's annual oil sales, the report said, and ease some of the economic pressure on it. Get the Times of Israel's daily edition by email and never miss our top stories. Free sign up on Sunday. A conservative Iranian lawmaker said French President Emmanuel Macron had proposed a $15 billion line of credit on condition Iran returns to the fold. France's President Emmanuel Macron, left, meets his Iranian counterpart Ḥusain Rouhani in New York, September 19, 2017. AFP photo / Ludovic Marin. Macron has proposed Iran stop its third step for now in exchange for this sum, and maybe retreat from its first and second steps to the initial situation, said Ali Motahari, quoted late Sunday by Tasnim news agency. He was referring to Iran's violations of the nuclear deal in recent months. It has been threatening to take a third step in reducing its commitments to the deal, reportedly on Friday. After already increasing its uranium enrichment and stockpile, Iranian President Ḥusain Rouhani has had a series of phone calls with Macron in recent weeks aimed at retaining the nuclear deal. The French leader has been trying to convince the United States to offer Iran some sort of relief from sanctions. In the past few weeks, there have been serious negotiations between Rouhani and Macron, as well as talks with other European nations, said Iranian government spokesman Ali Rabiei. In this April 9, 2018 file photo, released by an official website of the Office of the Iranian Presidency, President Ḥusain Rouhani listens to explanations on new nuclear achievements at a ceremony to mark National Nuclear Day, in Tehran, Iran, Iranian Presidency Office via app, file. Fortunately, in many areas, our views have come closer together, the government spokesman told a news conference. A French Foreign Ministry spokeswoman indicated Monday that, underpinning Macron's efforts to make progress on the issue, including at last week's G7 summit in France, discussions are continuing with Iran on reaching a de-escalation of tensions. A meeting is taking place to this end in Paris today between French and Iranian experts, she added without giving further details. The Iranian delegation was headed by Deputy Foreign Minister and top nuclear negotiator Abbas Araghchi. Also Monday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov joined visiting Iranian counterpart Mohammad Javad Zarif in welcoming French efforts to save the Iran nuclear deal while criticizing Washington's stance. We are hoping that this useful initiative of the French president will bear fruit, Lavrov told reporters. Read more. Israel and the region. Iran nuclear deal. France-Iran relations. Ḥusain Rouhani. Emmanuel Macron. Iran sanctions. 619 shares. You might also like Jewish socialist philosopher who met with Hamas announces U.S. presidential run. Jewish socialist philosopher who met with Hamas announces U.S. presidential run. Comments trending on politics. Iranian oil tanker pursued by U.S. slows to a near halt off Syrian coast. Iranian oil tanker pursued by U.S. slows to a Ex-Liquid Minister denies leaking damaging Netanyahu tape, blames evil people. Ex-Liquid Minister denies leaking damaging. Iran's Rouhani says no intention of holding bilateral talks with U.S. Iran's Rouhani says no intention of holding. Qatar announces drastic cut in funding for gas and fuel. Report: Qatar announces drastic cut in funding for Ghazan. Netanyahu seeks deal to have far-right party drop out of election. Report: Netanyahu seeks deal to have far-right party drop.
So that was the whole thing. The AI speaks Dutch basically, and I was showing my channel here. You can see try something.vegetarian with a dot in between something and vegetarian, so that it's easy to find. It should be. But of course you're on it already, but you never know who's listening. Perhaps you have other agents than I have monitoring me. And if that's all top secret, then no one knows. Basically, only a couple of people at the top, perhaps. Perhaps no one knows me. So yeah, I did broadcast global warming caused by atmospheric heaters, chemtrails, space travel, and cancer cell phone radiation. Extinction Rebellion movement, do not engage in illegal civil disobedience. World leaders speaking about a new world order, global government, Biden, Bush, Kissinger, Kerry, Clinton. Rouhani lift sanctions first. Iran ready to talk once US sanctions lifted, asks UN to intervene. Iranian FM Zarif chants, quote, death to America, death to Britain, death to Israel, with the link to the source and the video in which he supposedly does that. Of course I don't speak Arabic, and it looked kind of out of sync. But judge for yourselves if he really chanted that. As sanctions choke Iran, Hezbollah reportedly deploying for war on Israel border, Times of Israel. BDS anti-Semitic, 190 murdered protesters, use of depleted uranium, people locked up in Gaza. So basically I advise people to boycott companies, not whole countries. But you could argue, as long as Israel is not in compliance with international law, and you have these 190 murdered protesters in Gaza, that it is good to boycott Israel. They are also sanctioning Iran, and of course Israel is an ally of the US, and Pelosi made clear that aid to the US, the money has to keep flowing even if the US would crumble, if the nation would crumble, in her statement. And many people thought that's weird, and others love it. Free Tommy Robinson, free Mr. Lennon, live protest Manchester reviewing, heatwave Netherlands geoengineered, and Rothschild financial advisor of Rothschilds. Should be. And I can't write I cannot write Lord Rothschild because that wouldn't fit. The title length seems to have decreased. I don't know if that has to do with my settings. If I make the picture smaller, can I use more fonts? Or if I use a smaller font, copy that and then paste it, could that work? I don't know. I could give it a try. So basically, Rothschild financial advisor of Boris Johnson. Well, I could watch that myself. Wonder what's in it. But there's a Sky person. Let's see if I can find it fast. So Skype Prologic999 if you want to chat or make a broadcast. Poison Sky. Tweety. The other chat remarks, perhaps. No. Boris Johnson calls for police to apologize to Lord Bramall over child sex allegations. VIP pedophile ring wrote in the chat. And also something that I'm not gonna read. Boris Johnson has admitted that he is a globalist and he's a classic Bilderberger, according to FX Destination on Twitter. I haven't been able to verify this. Perhaps someone else could verify this. Does anybody have a source that claims that he was at a Bilderberg meeting? Or could he also be Bilderberg without being at the meeting? Boris Johnson has admitted that he is a globalist and he's classic Bilderberg. Twitter.com FX Destination. /FX Destination. Secretive Bilderberg meeting draws Pompeo and Kushner, New York Times.com 2019. That has to be one of my other chat collections. Let's try the 153 KB version and open with the WordPad. But I see that Yarte now also displays these emojis. I thought it wasn't capable of doing that before. Okay. I am a passionate Zionist, declares Boris Johnson, Jewish News, timesofisrael.com. Wow. Boris Johnson on Twitter, great to catch up with at @L_de_Rothschild to discuss gender equality. Twitter, September 20th, 2017. Boris Johnson reveals immigration shake-up to attract foreign scientists. Boris Johnson speech, deliver, unite, defeat, energize, dude. Okay. Boris Johnson hires Sky's Andrew Griffith as business advisor. The former Rothschild investor banker joined Sky in 1999. And I was wondering what Sky is. Do they mean the news channel or... Accept the cookies, and let's show this to the viewers. Boris Johnson, Sky. No. Andrew Griffith or something. Andrew Griffith, the Chief Financial Officer and Chief Operating Officer at the Pay TV Group. Griffith, who is Sky's Chief Financial Officer and Chief Operating Officer. So you have Sky News, Sky Comcast Corporation, Sky Limited, is a British media and telecommunications conglomerate owned by Comcast and headquartered in London. It has operations in the UK, Ireland, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Italy and Spain. 23 million subscribers and more than 31,000 employees. The company is primarily involved in satellite television and broadband services. Oh, it's already on, okay. Prior to November 2018, Rupert Murdoch's 21st Century Fox owned a 39.14% controlling stake in the company. On 9 December 2016, following a previous attempt under News Corporation that was affected by the News International phone hacking scandal, 21st Century Fox announced that it had agreed to buy the remainders of Sky, pending government approval. However, after a bidding war that included the Walt Disney Company, which was in turn acquiring most of 21st Century Fox assets, US media and telecoms conglomerate Comcast acquired the entirety of Sky in 2018 for £17.3 per share. 17.28. Before the acquisition by Comcast, Sky was listed on the London Stock Exchange and was a constituent of the FTSE 100 index and had a market capitalization of approximately 18.75 billion, 26.76 billion as of 2018 pounds and euros. So the former Rothschild investor banker joined Sky in 1999 and became finance chief for the group in 2008. And he is the business advisor of Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I do a search on Boris Johnson Rothschild. Despite promises, Trump's trade deficits are only growing. Axios 9 hours ago. So will the Simpsons prediction come true of the crisis created by Trump? Will it be a recession or a crisis? I don't know much about economy. could the opposite happen? Are they generating an economic surge? Well, not that much interesting stuff. Known thine enemy. Don't know if they're joking. It's on kalonjoke.com. Our common enemy is World War III. Death is our common enemy, we're all the human race. Our common enemy is still death. Lord Rothschild, stocks could be on thin ice. Money week. Well, of course, he is a Bilderberg member and he may be involved in population reduction as well. I don't know about paid protests, etc. Paid protesters, I mean. I think that's more associated with George Soros than with Lord Rothschild. But more about this in future and previous broadcasts on @Something.Vegetarian. This was 26/8/2019. This is on moneyweek.com.
The stock market could be on thin ice, notes Lord Rothschild in the latest half-year results for Red Capital, the investment trust he founded in 1961. Rothschild, 82, who steps down as chairman next month, notes that valuations are, on many metrics, at the upper end of historical ranges at a time when geopolitical risks abound, credit quality is deteriorating, and global economic growth is weakening. Can firms maintain their currently high levels of profits against this backdrop? Rothschild is skeptical. The last decade has seen a confluence of factors which have benefited companies' earnings to an unprecedented extent. These features, which include the lower cost of capital, reduced taxes, stagnant wages, and the influence of globalization, are unlikely to be sustained. As a result, Rothschild's trust is cautiously positioned. We are seeking to invest in situations that either give us a degree of protection in potentially deteriorating conditions or in areas where structural growth rates are sufficiently high for valuations to hold their own or indeed prosper. Recent examples of such investments include privately owned US-based logistics firm Keep Truckin, while South Korean online retailer Coupang continues to grow strongly. The trust, which is part of MoneyWeek's model investment trust portfolio, see here for more about this, returned 10% over the year to 30 June, and 73% over 5 years.
Well, things are going down. I think they could buy put options, but again, I have no idea what I'm talking about. When it comes to the economy, well, I did pass in school, etc. It was not my favorite subject. And perhaps I could come up with interesting ideas. But I'd rather try to have more and a better influence on our timeline for humanity as a whole. But money can be part of that, of course. Where would we be without money? If we'd all decide, okay, let's get rid of all that money today. let's give this man a generous donation via universalpeace.gmail.com so he can buy some rainforest and work from there. Preserve some rainforest, that's the idea. The lungs of the earth, the world. Beautiful rainforests with loads of healing plants, vanilla and trees and shrubs, Palo Santo wood. And crystals are also somewhere, gold and silver, natural minerals our body needs. Silver, I don't know about gold, that supposedly increases people's IQ. So people can also take colloidal gold. Right, I think that's it for this broadcast. So that's cpri.org. Russia has more nukes than the US on this graphic representation of the amounts both countries possess, or all countries that have nukes, I think. Cleaning up my desk. Okay. So that's it for now. Please tune in next time on Try Something.Vegetarian. And do stuff for universal peace. Make love, not war. Make love go AWOL at safest. I think it would be great if the troops could just go home and they could make an agreement. But based on what General Wesley Clark has said and other things, information that I found online, I have to conclude it's best to be prepared, at least with that radiological water filter and storable food, and if possible a place where you could survive a third world war with nuclear weapons, etc. And people that prepare have a chance to survive. People that are not prepared do not have that chance. They need water almost daily and food almost once a month or more than once a month. So that's quite easy to remember. The electrical pumps would be knocked out by the solar storm or the EMP, so then people wouldn't have tap water. So water filter, it's a good idea. I like this watch of eBay, it's flat, it's $6.71, and it has a timer, countdown timer, and it's not too slow, it's a little bit too fast, so that's exactly how I like it. Though I can't guarantee if you buy one that it's also on time. The cheapest quartz watches are more accurate than the most expensive automatic watches with mechanical watches. Mechanical watches only have disadvantages. They also have to be serviced, and the only advantage would be during an electromagnetic pulse, though I don't know if that would magnetize the watch and then it would become unusable as well, even if it's mechanical. I don't know. I still haven't checked. Right there. I made my own first perfume. I'm gonna do a broadcast about making it. And this is a cheap flacon of eBay perfume bottle. I'm shaking it a bit. I noticed that extra virgin coconut oil doesn't totally dissolve in the 96% pure alcohol. That's Navimer drinkable alcohol, and I advise people to use that. Okay, my father's coming in, so I'm now gonna end this broadcast, and perhaps tonight I might do another one, or otherwise tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Thank you all for watching. Tune in next time and try Something.Vegetarian. And remember to like, subscribe, and share this important video on your timeline if you think it's important. Tune in next time. Peace.